Welcome to the Business Miracles Podcast. I'm Heather Dominick, founder of BusinessMiracles.com. Since 2010, I've been training highly sensitive entrepreneurs and leaders from around the globe to work less while making more impact and income by doing things differently. I'm so glad you've joined me. Listen in and get ready for a shift in the way you view yourself, your work, your life. A business miracle. This is A Course in Business Miracles, episode number 114, Inside Highly Sensitive Leadership with stress management coach, Carlee Myers. Welcome to this special series of the Business Miracles podcast, Inside Highly Sensitive Leadership, where you'll be hearing real stories from real highly sensitives creating real success. In today's episode, I am thrilled to spend some time talking to Business Miracles community member, Carlee Myers. I invite you to listen in as I talk with highly sensitive leader Carlee Myers to hear how before she joined the Business Miracles community and highly sensitive leadership training program, she was pushing herself to the point where her nervous system was running raw as she worked her way through long days, nights, and even weekends. After joining the program, she had a huge realization that her business schedule actually can be done differently, and she can still receive results and very often even better results. In addition to being a massively valued member of the Business Miracles community and the highly sensitive leadership training programs, Carlee is an expert at helping female leaders think high-achieving executives, business owners, and managers who feel overworked and exhausted find the peace and freedom they desire. As the founder of the Stressless Company, Carlee has helped hundreds of professionals around the world take action to reduce stress through her educational and mentoring programs. She believes there is no one size fits all when it comes to stress management. Carlee Myers, a diplomate of the American Institute of Stress, has had her work most recently featured in media outlets such as Parade, Fox 29, Good Day Philadelphia, the Maui News, and Holy Magazine. I am consistently impressed by Carlee and her willingness to really look deep within herself at what needs to change so she can be experiencing more of what she really wants. I love every time I get to be with Carlee and her energy, and I sense that you will too. Carlee, welcome to the Business Miracles podcast and Inside Highly Sensitive Leadership. I'm so happy you are here.
Thank you so much for having me.
I am really looking forward to this conversation. I think there's many reasons why I'm looking forward to this conversation, but one of the reasons is because you and I are actually fairly brand new to each other. So you have not, at the time of recording this podcast, have not even been in the Business Miracles community and highly sensitive leadership training programs for even a year yet. Yet you joined in the middle of a pandemic. So it feels to me like I have known you forever because so much has transpired, right, in the world and in our lives and for you in the quote unquote brief time that I've known you. So I'm really just, loving this opportunity to hear more about what the last 9 months have been like for you. So if you are willing, I'd love for you to start off by just sharing, my gosh, what had you dive into highly sensitive leadership training in the midst of a global pandemic?
Oh my. So I had been following you sort of through the ether, if you will, for quite a bit. I had a friend who was part of the program, and she had taken me out to coffee 1 or 2 times, and she kept mentioning Heather Dominick. And I was like, yeah, don't need another coach. Thanks though. And she was just telling me about her experience. And I put that into the back of my mind and forgot about it. And then in the middle of the pandemic, the same friend reaches out to me and she's like, you have to go to this thing Heather's doing. You absolutely have to. And so I went, and really going into that event, I was I was kind of floundering. Like I was definitely in a place of denial around the flounder. I was
Mm-hmm.
in the place of like trying to control every little thing. And I was like, I
Mm-hmm.
have the white knuckle grip on everything. It's all figured out. But the reality is I knew that with the pandemic, something needed to be done differently. I knew that I needed support.
Mm-hmm.
And I also was very clear that a traditional coach was not going to do it for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you know why you were clear about that, or what that clarity was about for you?
So I had been a part of a previous program for 2 years, like probably 5 years or so ago. And it was the program that really helped me launch my business into reality. But after I really learned like the basics of business, like I knew nothing going into business. I
Mm-hmm.
realized like I know how to do a quote sales conversation. I know how to do email marketing. I know how to do social media. I know how to do all of this. And yet, why isn't it working? And
Mm-hmm.
particularly a memory of being on a coaching call with one of the coaches I was working with at the time, going to them and saying, "Look, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing this." And the shock when she came back to me and was like, "Well, you're doing everything right. Just be patient."
Mm-hmm.
And that hit me like a ton of bricks because I wasn't getting the results I wanted. I was working my butt off, like working during the day, working evenings, working weekends, doing events like all the time. And I had been doing the work for more than 2 years. So I was like, when are the results going to show up?
Right.
And I had this hunch. I didn't know exactly what it was, but I knew that it was not 100% business training that I needed. I knew that there was something getting in the way, but I couldn't put my finger on it. So I was
That
very
makes
clear
sense.
I didn't want to go that direction again.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. I so appreciate that story because I share so much of that story. As I'm listening to you, I was like, oh my gosh, like I could be saying those words, from the early days of business building for myself. And, it took me coming to, I think, a much darker place than you, because I don't necessarily see that as part of your process and your journey, but it was a very, very, very dark night of the soul for me. And that was when I learned that I was highly sensitive. That's what brought me to that understanding. It's what brought me, into the work and into a deeper sense of knowing. And, as you know, and most likely most people who are listening know, it changed everything for me, absolutely for the better. So I'd love to hear, now that you have been and are a part of the highly sensitive leadership training programs, what has made the most difference for you in regards to that missing piece that you identified in that previous program, even though you couldn't quite put your finger on what that miss was? What's been helpful with that so far for you?
So I think it's twofold. I think one was that what I was missing is that the energy that I was going into business with was not really great energy. That was
Mm,
for sure. And the thing that when people ask me about the program, the thing that I share the most is I don't work nights and weekends anymore. Oh my God. Like that is huge. But I do think that along with other changes that I've made have really assisted me in being able to truly show up in conversation from a grounded place, from a place of separating. I feel like in previous coaching programs, they would tell you like detach from the outcome on an enrollment conversation, but then they would be like revenue, revenue, revenue. And so
right.
for
Yes.
for me, I was going into conversations being like, this person's my rent. This person's like my, as much as I cared about everything that they were sharing, I also had that voice that was like rent, bills, my worthiness as a business owner, da 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 da.
Yes.
Da. And I think
Yes.
the shift that's happened since being in the program is that I actually truly am able to detach. And that's because actually taking care of myself.
Yes. Yes. This is amazing. This is so awesome. There's so much that I hear you speaking to that's just really so incredible. So, the first piece that I hear you speaking to is the working nights, the working weekends, and, one that is more of like that traditional business training, business building approach, right? Like you have to put everything into it, and that's what it takes in order to get a business off the ground. And not that that's true or not true, because it's not just about what you're putting into it, but the way you're putting in.
Mm-hmm.
And for those who are not highly sensitive, often that working nights, working weekends is like a real motivator, right? It's like a real, genuine internal boost. It's a drive. It's, an adrenaline rush in a good way. For those of us who are highly sensitive, and what I hear you describing, which, I'm hearing it through the ears again of my being able to completely relate to your story, is what I have, come through research to identify as the highly sensitive entrepreneur coping mechanism of pushing, where we're pushing ourselves to the point where our nervous system is running raw in order to be working those nights, in order to be working those weekends, and that it's being driven from more of a fear adrenaline versus like a motivated, fun adrenaline. Mm-hmm. And it's a huge shift to realize and believe that, oh, this actually can be done differently. And I can still receive results, and very often even different results, which is so much of what I hear you talking to in regards to the detaching from the outcome when having a selling conversation. And that piece that I hear you speaking to is, it's one thing to say it, right? Detach from the outcome. And it's a whole other thing to go through the process to learn how to do that. And that's so much of what I've really been seeing you engaging in over these months in the program. And it's so beautiful, because what I see is that can go into the pushing coping mechanism, when channeled differently, becomes like a committed willingness. The committed willingness to dive in more deeply of like, oh, wait, like, what do I need to do differently, or how do I need to go about this so that I can truly detach from the outcome? And it's just been so great to see your energy being used in that way, in addition to the fact that we have you, in a more grounded schedule. I know you've had like some recent enrollment conversations that have been impactful for you. So I don't know if you maybe want to share a little bit about how showing up differently feels different for you when you're having those selling conversations versus before. Is that something you feel like you could talk about a little bit?
Yeah. So before I was doing enrollment well, first of all, I was calling them sales conversations. So I've been very cognizant in our conversation to continue to call the way that I was doing things back then a sales conversation. So I was having sales conversations, and they were singular. They were not very open to a continued conversation. They were, okay, what's the problem? Here's one thing you can fix. And if you're not fully convinced, let me convince you for the next 30 minutes. And it's so icky to even say, but that's how it is. And now I think one of the things that's really powerful is that, and before, I will say, like, I was taught to take the power away from the other person and say, like, this is what's best for you. This is what you need to buy this, and this is why. And now I have flexibility to extend the conversation. I have flexibility to let them process as much as they can on their own, and then support them from there, which I think is really wonderful. So now I'm able to actually, I think I'm much more grounded in my strength of deep listening in this context. And I'm able to just connect and share on such a deeper level than I was ever before. Because before I was just looking for, where's the hole? Where can I poke at? Where can I sell them? And now it's not about that. It's about connection.
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh. I so appreciate this because, you're mentioning the highly sensitive strength of deep listening. And what I'm hearing as I'm listening to you right now is in the previous model, that strength of deep listening was being used to filter how can I sell this person?
Mhm.
Now you're using the strength of deep listening to really connect in with the person that you're having the conversation with, to really get clear about what it is that they need, and then to be able to, support them in taking, the step that's right for them. What's the feeling? How does it feel different if you had to describe that, like between past and now?
Aside from icky.
Which is a
um,
good.
no, I think that, and then the other word that I would use to describe the way I did it before was it was very pushy. It felt
Mhm.
pushy. It felt like when you hear the word salesy, like it felt salesy. And I thought that's just what you had to do to have a business. But
Right. Right.
now it feels, first of all, I'm excited to like, oh, I can't wait to
Mm.
hear. I would say it just feels open, it feels spacious, and it's really, it feels it feels like empowering from both ends because I'm not required to step into like trying to save them from themselves or something, like
Right.
overset my boundaries. I'm able to stay in my strengths and focus on what I am good at and what my gifts are. And then they are able to, of course, make their decisions and decide what's best for them. And that feels really good. It's very empowering to be able to shift into that energy.
That's awesome. That's so beautiful, Carlee. I mean, what a difference, for you, for the person you're connecting with. And, again, I know that you and I basically just started our journey, but it's such a really, really beautiful foundation for, much opening that's to continue to come for you. That's no question. So, just before we wrap this conversation, I love the fact that you brought up the highly sensitive strength of deep listening. And along those lines, I would love to be able to talk about the highly sensitive strength of intuition, because this is something that I've really seen you start to hone for yourself in the time that you've been a part of the leadership training program. And, so many changes have just been happening for you in regards to the way that you assess actions and decisions that you make in your business, changes that you've made to teams, schedule, even how you are masterfully tracking your self-care. So I'd love for you to just share, what it's been like to be able to access that strength of intuition and use it more deliberately for yourself.
Mm, I feel like that's a can of worms.
Well,
No,
we'll open it as much as we can.
no, yeah. So I think that intuition was very tied to spirituality for me. And that's the reason I say it's a can of worms.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So at the beginning of the pandemic, I started to re-explore what that meant for me after, 10 plus years of really shutting it out and feeling resentment around that relationship. And
Hmm.
so for me, it's been, the tool, for instance, of auto writing has been incredibly powerful once I was able to really dig in and redefine it for myself, because connecting with my intuition was a combination for me. It was a combination of like connecting in with my higher self and my essential self, but it was also a combination of saying what is the power greater than myself that I believe in, and where can I receive
Yes.
guidance.
Yes.
So auto rating has been incredible. It's a practice that I started doing every morning. And I find that when I don't do it, but it's really helped me connect in with what's best for me. Like, I think one of the things that you say is like, how do I meet my needs while also meeting the needs of others? And I think
Yes.
that's one of the things that my intuition's been really helpful with, is connecting in with what I need. What do I need today?
Huge. That is huge. It's so huge because, one of the things that I hear from highly sensitives a lot is, how much they want to be able to have their needs met, but yet that journey and the process of really what that looks like and what that means and how to take action around that is quite tremendous. It's really significant. So, I appreciate that you mentioned auto writing, which is one of the energy management tools that we teach in the training program, and how important energy management is. And I also love that you said you really feel it when you don't use it, because it's the same for me. Even all these years of like doing this work, I will still have some mornings where I'm like, too much going on, I can skip that, for today, or I'll do it later. And every time I'm like, darn it, I feel the difference.
Yep.
Yeah. So it does. Well, again, it's just, we've known each other for a short time, but there's so much that has significantly transpired in the time that we have known each other. And I'm really just so excited for where I see you going. So along those lines, where do you see you going? What's next for Carlee Myers as a highly sensitive leader?
I would say there's a couple things. One is obviously to continue growing my business with ease, not pushing. And
Yes.
that's one thing. And the other thing is just creating space for the other things that I love too. So one of the things that I love and I'm so into right now is all things gardening and food preservation, all of that. So I'm super, super excited to step into that in a bigger way now that I have more time to pursue those types of things.
Wow. That is so exciting. That is so tremendous, beautiful. And I love that you shared both of those pieces in the same breath, because that's so much of what being a highly sensitive leader is about, right? Is that when we begin to go about doing things differently, it doesn't have to be one or the other. It doesn't have to be either or. It doesn't have to be someday for those personal pieces that are, so meaningful for us. So that's beautiful. I'm so happy to hear that. And then Carlee, where can listeners find out more about you and the incredible work you are doing in the world as a highly sensitive leader?
Yeah. So the first place that you can find me is basically everywhere on social at The Stress Less Co. And then you can also find me on my website at thestresslessco.com.
Okay, let's say those one more time.
So it's on social at The Stress Less Co. and on our website at thestresslessco.com.
Awesome. Beautiful. Definitely check out Carlee. And again, the amazing work she's doing in the world as a highly sensitive leader. Carlee, thank you so much for your time today, and including navigating some technical glitches that we had in the recording of this podcast. I love every moment I get a chance to spend time with you, and this has been super lovely. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This has been fun.
Awesome. And thank you for listening. Until next time. Thank you for being a part of this Business Miracles podcast episode, and for beginning to dip your toe into the journey of highly sensitive leadership training. If you are ready to truly use your sensitivities as strengths in all parts of your work and life, I invite you to connect for a one-on-one chat. You will experience being deeply listened to, and together we'll get a sense of whether the highly sensitive leadership training programs are the best next step for you and your highly sensitive journey at this time. Just go to www.claritycall.com to schedule a conversation. We so look forward to connecting with you. Talk to you soon.